2021 was such a good year for music releases. We got so many great albums from different bands of different genres all over the world, man. And now that the year is finally over, we're going to go over my favorite and your favorite albums of 2021. Now, the key thing to remember here is favorite. We're not saying best album because we're not necessarily grading these albums on chart performances or mixing or song quality or anything like that. These are just personal favorites for whatever reason it is to us. And I'm not going to do too much talking in this.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Because we just want to see some results here, man. I may explain to you why I picked my top 10, but the rest of it, we're just going to fly down the list. And this video is going to be broken up into 3 different sections. I'm going to give you my favorite albums of 2021, then the community's favorite. A lot of you got involved in the voting that we did to pick your favorite albums and EPs, and we've got those results. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to take my favorites, your favorites, come up with a scoring system, and make a new adjusted overall top 10. And I know with lists like this, it's hard to please everybody, man. Everybody has such different tastes. So if the band that you like isn't on this list, I apologize, but let's get on with it, man. So kicking us off here, we're going to start with my personal favorite top EPs and studio albums of 2021. Before we get started, I just do want to throw this out there. This was incredibly difficult, man. One of the hardest things I've done in a while because I like music for a lot of different reasons, and I listen to different things when I'm in different moods, and it's incredibly hard to actually rank music. But since people like top 10 lists, that's what we're going to do. Now, this is purely just based on how much I personally liked it and have been listening to it, like replay value and stuff. We're not judging based off production or songwriting or anything like that. It's just literally how much I like it. There are some albums that didn't make my top 10 that I'm bummed about, that I really would have loved to include them. But again, top 10, everybody wanted a list, so let's get it going. Starting our list off at number 5, I've got Days Before the World Wept from The Agonist. And this was a great showing from this band, man, both musicality and vocal-wise. We got a lot of the technicality that we're used to with them while they still continue to write great songs. And we got a great blend of harsh and clean vocals from Vicky that really shows off what she's capable of. This one really has me excited for a new studio album whenever they're going to release that. Now, coming in at number 4, I've got Insomnium with Argent Moon. Now, this one was really cool, man, because while I'm really familiar with Insomnium and the sound that they're capable of, this was kind of something fresh and new, man. This was a side of them that I haven't seen all the time. And I really, really enjoyed it, man. I hope with future releases, they kind of incorporate a lot more of this like darker acoustic sound with some of the stuff they're doing. Now at number 3, we've got Eskimo Callboy with the MMXX Hypa Hypa edition. Now there were some people that didn't think I should include this in the list because it is technically a re-release. However, there are more new songs on it than the original MMXX EP that came out. So I included it on the list. And the main thing about this one was they got all these other German artists to do their renditions of Hypa Hypa. And aside from the actual songs themselves and how much I liked them, I just thought it was such a cool idea, man, getting all of their friends involved to kind of just play on how big Hypa Hypa got over the time that it was released. This was super cool, and I know a lot of other people really got into this too. At number 2, Lorna Shore with And I Return to Nothingness. For me, personally, this is a game changer for the deathcore genre. These guys have incorporated elements of, black metal and symphonic metal and a bunch of other stuff. And I really think this kind of kicked down the door for them, man. We've seen a lot more people talking about this band and getting into them than from their previous releases, which these guys have always been putting out really, really good music. But this one, I think, is really going to just land them on the map, man. I expect to see really big things from these guys, and I hope that we get a full studio album sometime in 2022. And at number 1 for me, man, Orbit Culture with Shaman. Now, this is one of those bands that I didn't discover until I started this YouTube channel, and I was absolutely blown away. I can't believe that these guys aren't bigger than they already are, but I expect to see pretty big things from them in the future, man. And this EP from start to finish is one of my most listened to and replayed EPs of the year. It's a freaking adventure, man, just from start to finish. And I really expect this to kind of blow the band up a little more. They've got some tour announcements that they've had now. I know COVID is kind of wrecking some of that, but they've also said that they may be coming to the US eventually too. Again, another band that I really think landed themselves on the map with a release, and I expect huge things from these guys in the future. Before we kick off my top 10 favorite studio albums of 2021, again, I just want to bring up the fact that there were so many good albums this year. I bought over 60 albums in 2021, and that's not even including the ones I actually listened to. And because there were so many other ones that I loved that didn't make my top 10, I do want to do a quick round of honorable mentions just for those albums that I love, just so we throw them out there because I feel bad if I don't include them. So my honorable mentions for my favorite albums of 2021 are Wallflowers by Jinjer, Das Album from We Butter the Bread with Butter, Chapter 2 Legacy from Ad Infinitum, The Silver Scream 2 Welcome to Horrorwood from Ice Nine Kills, Kostalom from Slaughter to Prevail, Ukko from Atlas, Call of the Wild by Powerwolf, Fortitude from Gojira, Coherence from Be'lakor, and Radical from Every Time I Die. And now, moving on to the top 10 list for favorite studio albums of 2021. Coming in at number 10, we've got Rivers of Nile with The Work. And I'll tell you what, man, I was a little late to the party with this band. I discovered them last year with one of their older albums, and I was really looking forward to this one. And this one blew away my expectations, man. These guys are masters of the technical metal that they're playing, man. From start to finish, this is one of those albums that I can just listen to all the way through, never skip a song, and still be impressed every single time that I hear it, man. This one was great, and I'm so glad that I got to put it on this list. At number 9, Brand of Sacrifice with Lifeblood. This was a very late comer to this list because it was released later in the year, and I didn't get around to listening to it until a few weeks ago, to be honest, and it blew me away, man. As most people know, deathcore is one of those genres where I kind of get bored every now and then unless something is really unique and kind of blows me away. And I honestly think that these guys are doing something new and fresh for the entire deathcore genre. Just from listening to the first track on the album, which is like a 2-minute intro, it gives you a taste of what's to come and just kind of rips your face off. But it's kind of surprising too because there's a lot of melody in this album. It's not just brutal, in-your-face metal. There are some guest vocal spots with some clean vocals. And the things that these guys are doing with sounds, with their guitar work and a lot of other stuff, it's just phenomenal, man. I can't wait to dig more into their discography and to see whatever they're going to release next. At number 8, Tetrarch with Unstable. This is another one of those, man, that I was so surprised that I loved it as much as I did. Not because I expected anything less, but because I really wasn't familiar with the band until this year, man. But again, from start to finish, this album knocks it out of the park, man. These guys have been grinding for a while, since a very young age. And they're just now starting to get a lot of attention. They've been on a lot of tours over the past year. And this album really just threw it out there to the world what they're capable of. One of the things I like is that even though it's a younger band, it has a sound that I'm really familiar with. It sounds like early 2000s nu metal influence, which I absolutely love. Again, can't wait to see what these guys do in the future, and I would love to go see this show live pretty soon too. Coming in at number 7, we have our last album that released of 2021, Feuerschwanz with Memento Mori. Now, I'm already a big fan of this band, but this album absolutely blew away my expectations of what these guys were going to deliver, man. I think over the course of their discography, we've seen a huge maturity in their sound, and this album really showcases that. And not only just the main disc, but they have a bonus disc that has covers like they normally do, and it just shows their versatility with different styles of music and how they're able to make it their own. I loved this one. I know a lot of other people did too, and I really hope this kind of breaks them into more markets than just Germany and Europe, because I'd love to go see these guys in the United States sometime. Coming in at number 6, I've got Archspire with Bleed the Future. Now, when this album was announced, I was kind of excited for it because I was familiar with some of Archspire's older stuff, but I had never really gotten into them. I was aware that they were super fast and super technical, so I assumed when it came out there was probably going to be a handful of songs that I would like, but the rest I would probably just gloss over and skip when I listened to it on the album again. Absolutely wrong, man. From start to finish, this album absolutely crushes. It is an insane display of musical talent and speed. And bands like this, I like for the same reason that I like extreme sports. It's like, how hard can we push our bodies to go to see what kind of music we create? And these guys do it perfect, man. Not only is it fast and extreme and aggressive, but the songs are actually great. It's enjoyable to listen to many, many times over. I loved this one and can't wait to see what comes out from them next. At number 5, I've got Evergrey with Escape of the Phoenix. Now, this one was kind of crazy because not only is it one of my favorite albums, it's one of my favorite discoveries band-wise of the year. Because even though I'm familiar with the Swedish metal scene and have been for a long time, I just now discovered these guys this year, and this album was my introduction. Now, I've gone back and listened to everything else they've ever done, but this album this year was phenomenal, man. I loved every second of it. The musicality and the songwriting was awesome. It has so many elements of what I like about metal, and it really pulled at me emotionally. This is something that is kind of a trip and kind of a journey to listen to from start to finish, and I'm really glad that I discovered this band on this album. At number 4, I've got Leprous with Aphelion. Now, this one might be surprising to some people because I normally gravitate to heavier styles of music. And I didn't discover this band until right before this album came out, so I wasn't familiar with their older material. But right when I listened to this album, I could tell I've missed a ton, man, because the musical talent in this band is absolutely unreal, man. And this is one of those albums that I can pretty much listen to anywhere, in the car, at home doing stuff, but most of the time back here, just when I want to be chill and mellow and vibe. It's one of those albums that I can sit and do nothing else and just absorb and enjoy. And almost every single time I listen to it, I hear something new that I didn't really catch the previous time. And I love when bands are able to do that. At number 3, I've got Spiritbox with Eternal Blue. Now, I'm not gonna lie, man. When it got closer to this record coming out, I was honestly afraid that they were not going to be able to deliver the kind of record that was being hyped to the general public. Everybody was talking about this band. So when I got the album, I was a little nervous. I was like, all right, here we go. Let's see what we get. And I was so happy once I finished listening to it because they absolutely delivered, man. This is a fantastic album, and you can tell that they put a lot of time and care into it. I mean, I don't even know what else to say about it because I already know that this is a lot of other people's favorite records of the year. And I'm super excited to see what they release in the future because this was one hell of a debut studio album. Before I get into my number 2 and number 1, I just want to make it known that this one was a toss-up. It could have gone either way. Either one of the bands I'm about to just mention could have taken each other's spot. But at the end of the day, because we're making a list, I had to assign one number to a band, and there are specific reasons I chose it this way, which I'll get into. But for me, aside from the list, this is pretty much a tie. But for the sake of the actual top 10, at number 2, I've got Orden Ogan with Final Days. Again, another band that I didn't discover until a couple months ago, to be honest, and I went through a lot of their discography until getting to this album. But this one absolutely blew me away. It's like these guys wrote music specifically for me. This is what I love about metal music, and these guys write choruses better than almost any other band I've ever listened to. It gets me fired up. It makes me feel emotional. I feel like I could take on the world listening to this band, and I recommend everybody give this album a chance. It is fantastic. You will not regret your time listening to it. And coming in at number 1, my favorite album of 2021, Whitechapel with Kin. Now, I don't even know where to start with this one, man. I guess for anybody that doesn't know, this is kind of a continuation of their previous album, The Valley. It's very storyteller-ish, and it's got a very deep personal connection for their singer, Phil. A lot of the lyrics that he wrote for that last album and this one were based on personal events from his childhood and a lot of fictional stuff that continued it. But aside from that, this album just kicks ass, man. From start to finish, again, I don't know how many times I've said that in this video, but this one, I don't think I was surprised that it was as good as it was, but it was better than I was expecting. And the reason that I chose this album at number 1 over Orden Ogan was the range of sound and emotion that we got from this band. Normally, Whitechapel is known for just being a brutal metal band. And in this one, we got sides of them that we've not really seen or kind of seen in previous releases. We've gotten acoustic guitars thrown in and clean vocals from their singer, Phil. And it was just a trip, man. And one of my favorite things is if you know the story and take the time to read into the lyrics and know what's going on, it really takes you on an emotional trip, man. And there are some things that a lot of people can relate to. This album delivered on all aspects. The sound, the range of versatility that they showed. I mean, it was just great. And if there's anybody out there that hasn't listened to this, I would highly recommend that you go check it out as soon as possible. Moving on to your favorite albums and EPs of 2021. Now, for those of you that voted, you already know how it worked. But if there's anybody watching that didn't, I set up a big poll on a website where people could go vote on all of these albums. And if something they liked wasn't on there, there was an other category so they could throw it in. And we finally have all the results. Over 10,000 people voted on this, man. That's way more than I ever would have imagined. And I can't thank you guys enough for getting involved. This was super cool to see the results come in, but we've got them. So let's get into it. As voted on by the YouTube community, here are your favorite EPs of 2021. At number 5, we have The Agonist with Days Before the World Wept. At number 4, Insomnium with Argent Moon. Number 3, Orbit Culture with Shaman. Number 2, Lorna Shore with And I Return to Nothingness. And at number 1, favorite EP from the community, Eskimo Callboy with the MMXX Hypa Hypa Edition. And moving on to the community's favorite studio albums of 2021. At number 10, we've got Ice Nine Kills with the Silver Scream 2, Welcome to Horrorwood. At number 9, Gojira with Fortitude. At number 8, we butter the bread with butter, Das Album. At number 7, we have Ad Infinitum with Chapter 2, Legacy. At number 6, Slaughter to Prevail, Coastalome. At number 5, we have Epica with Omega. At number 4, Powerwolf with Call of the Wild. At number 3, Jinjer with Wallflowers. Number 2, Spiritbox with Eternal Blue. And at number 1, the community's favorite album of 2021, we have Feuerschwanz with Memento Mori. To be honest, considering where a lot of you viewers come from and the things I know you already liked, that list is pretty accurate to how I kind of thought it was going to look, man. There's a lot of German bands in there. We have a lot of German viewers, but the rest of it too was pretty much what I was expecting. And I'm really excited to do this again in another year just to see what you guys have started listening to within a year. So there you have it. My favorites, your favorites, and the adjusted list combining two of them. I had an absolute blast doing this, man. This was super fun, but considering this was my first time ever doing something like this, if you have any suggestions on what would make this more entertaining or more fun for you guys or anything else, just let me know, man. We've got an entire year of music to listen to before we're back here again, checking out another top 10 favorites list, and I would love to make it perfect and enjoyable for all of you guys. So one more time, thank you very much for everybody that voted on this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you back here in another year.